Clerk, are we ready to begin?
Yes.
All right. Councilmember Quintanilla will be adding video just very shortly. But she is with us by audio. I call to order the June 10, 2021 meeting of the City Council, successor agency to the Palm Desert Redevelopment Agency and Housing Authority meeting. May we please have the roll call?
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Here.
Councilman Jonathan.
Present.
Councilmember Nistandi.
Here.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Present.
Mayor Kelly.
Here.
All present.
And Councilmember Jonathan, would you please lead us in the pledge?
It would be my honor. Please join me in honoring our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And hearing no objection, I'll move Councilmember Quintanilla's words of inspiration forward a bit in the program to make it a bit easier for her to present that. We had no closed session items today, so we have nothing to report. We do have three important proclamations. The first pertains to the class of 2021 and commends those students, their parents, teachers, and counselors for their accomplishments in a most challenging year. Here in Palm Desert, we of course have graduates from Palm Desert High School, from Xavier, and from a variety of other schools. I've asked Councilmember Nistandi, a proud mother of two graduates from Xavier, to read the whereas clauses for this proclamation, and I'll just raise my Aztec cup.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I wish I don't have a Xavier cup, but anyway, here goes. Thank you very much. Whereas students, parents, teachers, and counselors have been faced with unique challenges to adapt to pandemic conditions and in many cases quickly convert to virtual methods. And whereas the high school graduating class of 2021 and their counselors have been challenged to approach college or other post-graduation planning in new and resourceful ways. And whereas many students have unselfishly juggled their own studies with many younger siblings, and whereas graduates have also needed to reimagine or forego important rites of passage associated with their final year of high school.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Kathleen Kelly, Mayor of the City of Palm Desert, along with the entire City Council, do hereby recognize the class of 2021 and salute its high school graduates, their parents, teachers, and counselors for providing a powerful example of resourcefulness and self-sacrifice in time of challenge. And I hope many who are watching this did have the opportunity to join our graduates on one or both of the cruise nights held here on El Paseo for them to celebrate. Our second proclamation recognizes LGBTQ Pride Month, and I'm spreading around the honors here to some extent to save my voice. Mayor Pro Tem Jan Harnick has volunteered or been voluntold that she would be pleased to read the whereas clauses.
Definitely volunteered. Whereas our nation was founded upon and is guided by a set of principles that includes that every person has been created equal, that each has rights to their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and that each shall be accorded the full recognition and protection of law. And whereas the month of June was nationally designated LGBTQ Pride Month to commemorate the Stonewall riots that occurred in June of 1969 and are generally recognized as a key catalyst of the LGBTQ rights movement. And whereas Palm Desert is strengthened by and thrives upon the rich diversity of ethnic, cultural, racial, gender, and sexual identities of its residents, all of which contribute to the vibrant character of our city. And whereas the Centers for Disease Control recognizes that LGBTQ teens are at a higher risk to be the victims of violence and have increased suicide rates. And whereas it is imperative that young people in the community, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity, feel valued, safe, empowered, and supported by their peers, educators, and community leaders.
Now, therefore, I, Kathleen Kelly, Mayor of Palm Desert, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim and recognize June 2021 as LGBTQ Pride Month in Palm Desert and urge all residents to respect and honor our diverse community and celebrate and build a culture of inclusiveness and acceptance. In 2018, Palm Desert passed a very comprehensive resolution embodying our embrace of inclusivity, our celebration of diversity, and offering encouragement to all of our residents to consistently display an attitude of welcome and appreciation to all people. From time to time, it has become necessary to remind one another of the principles expressed in that 2018 proclamation. And sadly, a recent rise in anti-Semitic incidents warrants such a reminder. And that has given rise to our third proclamation. Whereas anti-Semitic incidents ranging from harassment to vandalism to assault increased by 75% since the beginning of May. And whereas this has exacerbated a troublesome trend evident in the United States during recent years, and whereas the city of Palm Desert has previously assured all its residents and visitors that Palm Desert is a place welcoming people of all backgrounds and cultures, celebrating that diversity enriches our community. And whereas civic leadership is key to influencing behavior that consistently embodies these values. And whereas the trends described here make it timely to reiterate Palm Desert's intolerance for any prejudice, racism, bigotry, hatred, bullying, and violence towards any groups within our community as expressed in resolution number 28-09. Now, therefore, I, Kathleen Kelly, Mayor of the City of Palm Desert, on behalf of the entire City Council, encourage all residents to recommit to the principles of resolution number 2018-09 and be guardians of our personal and communal behavior to assure it is consistent with the values stated therein. We must never let a comment in our presence go by as innocuous or unimportant. If you hear any demeaning reference, be it anti-Semitic or anti-anyone, say something. Make clear that that is not acceptable in our community. We'll proceed to non-agenda public comments. This is an opportunity for the public to speak on issues that are not on the agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes. Speakers may utilize any of 3 options that were published with the meeting notice. Because of the Brown Act, the City Council, successor agency, and Housing Authority boards may not take action on items or engage you in conversation, but we can refer items for action by staff. Please know that we are always available through City Hall to engage with you outside of meetings on non-agenda items. And the clerk will provide instructions in the event that anyone who is with us who would like to speak on a non-agenda item. I do see one raised hand, but we'll give her a chance to explain so that anyone else who wishes to be heard can get in the queue.
Thank you. Thank you for participating in our remote virtual City Council meeting. We will do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with public participation. The agenda provided options and instructions for providing public comment at these meetings. Before we begin, please silence your other communication devices, such as your cell or desk phone. This will ensure that we are not hearing any feedback or causing interruption during the meeting. The mayor will invite public comment where appropriate on the agenda. For those on Zoom, if you would like to make a public comment on the Zoom screen, please click on the raise hand button, which is found by hitting the participants tab. If you are using Zoom on your smartphone, tap your screen. Look for the more option and then click on the raised hand button on the screen. For those calling in using the phone line, you can dial *9 on your keypad to signal that you would like to comment. When called upon by the clerk, you will be allowed to speak. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes and please state your first and last name. Thank you.
And would you call upon the phone number with the raised hand?
Hi, my name is Brad Anderson. I currently live in the city of Rancho Mirage, and I just wanted to take just a few moments of your time. I did happen to hear your presentation on item number 3, and I would disavow any type of hate, but I do have an issue with the statistics that you gave out, and I will read through the board packet, but I find that kind of hard to believe. But anyway, I wanted to go ahead on public comments. I've addressed this before with your city, and your city has come a long way in this remote access to meetings. At the very beginning, I wasn't even allowed in the meetings, and a lot of people weren't. But I understand the phone. I only have access for phone. I don't have the other type of vision, what do you call that, Zoom, that type of meeting access, but a lot of people do, but I don't. But all that was at the end of the agenda, which is good. It should be on the agenda. All that information needs to be part of the public record. This can't be dismissed. So I'm glad you're doing that. But again, I do have an issue with the phone number because this is, believe it or not, it's I pay for long distance, so this meeting will cost money to attend. And I can't believe I'd be the only person involved in that. But anyway, I tried to attend the Art Commission public art meeting yesterday, and I wasn't even allowed in that meeting because of this issue with the tele or remote access. And this has happened before with your meetings, and it's just dismissed like, oh well, we'll get you next time, you know. And any public meeting, you know, the people should be able to have access and not be monitored when they're there. And a lot of and pre-registration or register is an issue with me too. But anyway, I want to talk about the Vector District real quick on my time that I have left. I noticed a lot of cities, Coachella and Cathedral City, they want to do area-wide spraying now for an insect. They don't even know, they're running off data from years past, and they have no current data. So I would definitely oppose any type of chemical spraying over households just because. And I was at that meeting on this week. They had a board meeting, and I wasn't even allowed to address the board. And I'm the only person that goes to those meetings in the whole, well, one of the only people from the public. So that's very concerning. Transparency is very important. I want to commend your city for doing that. You've come a long way, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
And thank you for joining us. Just to correct any confusion, our procedures do not require pre-registration at this time. It's certainly an option to let the clerk know of your intentions, but it's not required. And anyone who does have difficulty with the technology should feel free to supply comment with a message delivered by email or a hard copy to the clerk in advance of the meeting. Those are distributed to us and we study them. I see no other comments at this time. Is there anyone else wishing to offer public comment? Sandra?
Not at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And before we turn to business, this would be an excellent time for words of inspiration. Councilmember Quintanilla.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. My words of inspiration come from the past 2 weeks of working within the community and hearing from our residents and taking in the celebration of graduation being one of the first large gatherings where all of the sacrifices that we have endured have come and given us a little bit of reprieve. So I'm inspired by all of us that took the time and sacrificed during the pandemic, everyone that took the vaccine, everyone that is still observing the caution, because we know we're still working together. In that spirit of togetherness, I share with you some of the words that the chair of our Art and Public Places Commissioner shared. And it really invites me to work to find that inclusivity, but in terms of defining what our community is, who are we truly? And the chairwoman said, a community defining itself by what it's not will always be in search of itself. And so I look forward to what we as a council and as a community can decide what that truly means. And we can come forward with inclusion and just being so taken in that we're recognizing pride and the fact that we have proclamations to remind people that they are safe in our city, that they are welcome, and remembering that these proclamations are necessary because there was a time not too long ago where people didn't feel safe. And so we've come a long way. We've come a long way while there is still work to do, but I'm continually inspired by the perseverance of the community, by the determination of our students to keep moving forward. And with that kind of hope, I am just humbled to be here and invite us all to keep working to the inclusivity. Thank you.
And thank you. Which brings us to the consent calendar. Does anyone wish to remove an item from the consent calendar? If not, would someone like to move the entirety?
So moved.
A second.
Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nestandi,
Here, I mean, yes, I'm here and I say yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Yes.
Mayor Kelly,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
The first item on the action calendar is item number 20. Request for approval of contract number C36781, amendment number 1 to contract number C36780 with Dedicated Building Services LLC for city facilities janitorial services in the amount of $317,700. Contract number C36781. Ms. Horning? Or will it be Mr. Chavez? Looks like very good. Who is giving the staff report?
Should be Ms. Horning.
I apologize. We're having some technical difficulties. I got through it. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Heather Horning. I'm with the Public Works Department. Before you is a staff report requesting approval of the award of a contract to Dedicated Building Services for janitorial services at city facilities. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Ms. Horning. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm well, thank you. Just one question for you. Your report indicates that the total contract amended now comes to just under $318,000. And it occurs to me that that's probably roughly equivalent to 4 or 5 full-time employees. So the question is, have you looked at the alternative of hiring employees instead of outsourcing this particular service?
You know, I believe that definitely has been looked at in the past. There is quite a few full-time employees at multiple facilities, so it would not be practical to be able to hire internal city staff for less than that, unfortunately.
Okay, I'm not sure I heard a complete answer. It's probably my fault. I apologize. But, you know, the work that's being done, I guess I'm asking if we hired 3 or 4 employees, you know, and possibly cost less, can we get the work done at a lesser cost by hiring directly rather than outsourcing this particular work? Has there been an actual analysis done in that regard?
What I heard you say, Ms. Horning, is that would be impractical for some reason. Perhaps you can elaborate.
Yes, so there are more than 3 or 4 staff members involved in this particular contract because there are numerous facilities. We have 2 to 3 full-time ones here just at the City Hall facility, and then we have additional staff at different facilities. So for that number of staff, it would definitely cost more to hire them in-house when you include benefits and everything. But we can definitely continue to look at that each year. This is an annual contract we renew each year, and we can keep looking at that.
Okay, I'm going to leave it at that, but I do encourage staff, as I've done before. I think as some of these outsourced contracts grow in size and magnitude, we tend to lose a certain economy of scale, if you will, and there's increasing potential for hiring employees and getting the work done for less money. I think that's an emerging possibility in different areas, and I encourage staff to keep digging and conducting that analysis, that comparison. Thank you.
We have a hand up from Mayor Pro Tem Harnick, and Mr. Heilman is unmuted, so looks like he'd like to offer something also.
Yeah,
Mayor
I
Pro
think
Tem.
I'll say, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Go.
Yeah, I think the strategy with this particular contract was to try to line up two separate contracts. So we could certainly go through the exercise of taking a look at what other communities are paying for, their employees to do kind of an informal managed competition. It wouldn't be that difficult to do that, and in the next year when we're looking at that, and I'll ask staff to take a look at what that business model will look like in house versus what compare and contrast that with the bids. And I think we can answer your question pretty quickly. I believe Heather's right with the roll-ups on the pensions and that sort of thing, but we can still go through the exercise. It's not a lot of work.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, and I appreciate what our city manager just said, because there is a certain beauty certainly to being a contract city, because then we don't pay for ongoing expenses such as pensions and the like. And I think it's really important too that we look that the whole idea of cleaning and sanitizing has changed since COVID, and it is a far more intensive program that we now have in place to make sure that we keep everybody safe. And I know it takes now more people than it did before, and it certainly takes more time, but I think there's a certain beauty to the fact that we've always been a contract city and good reasons, but it's always a good idea to compare and check our options. Thank you.
Yes, the other factors I see being in the mix are because expectations for cleaning have changed. Special equipment is more of a factor. There can be a benefit to using contractors who are responsible for owning and maintaining that equipment. And quite frankly, for some functions, it's more satisfying to be a demanding customer than a supervisor of employees. There is a cost involved in having to chase janitorial employees from site to site to see if they've done what they were asked to do. And being able to pick up the phone with a contractor and demand action has its benefits. So I'll just register that also. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Is there, and that's a motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second. I'll second the motion.
Please take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nistandi, Councilmember Nistandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Yes.
Aye.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Item 21 is request for approval of bylaws for a homelessness task force. Just established, I think, at our last meeting by the council, Mr. Gary.
Very good. Bear with me for one moment as I share my screen. I believe you should have a presentation at this moment. So good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and council members. Chris Gary with the City Manager's Office. As you recall, as Mayor Kelly just mentioned, last meeting we approved a resolution to establish a homelessness task force to continue to enhance the city's efforts to address homelessness. Now, the item before you this evening is a consideration of bylaws for such a task force. The city provides a diversity of internal and external services related to homelessness. For example, the city contracts with Riverside University Health System to administer our homelessness assistance program, in which two mental health professionals conduct continual street outreach. And it's through that engagement offer the appropriate supportive services. And ultimately, the goal is, which we hear from a lot of homelessness programs, the goal is ultimately stable housing for individuals who are homeless, and really those wraparound services. And actually, I'm pleased to announce our team just moved actually a 74-year-old woman into permanent supportive housing earlier this week. And to elaborate, she was previously living in her vehicle when the team first approached her. And while temporarily housing her through CVAG's Housing Crisis Stabilization Unit, the team was able to provide her those supportive service and obtain her a Section 8 voucher. Speaking of CVAG, though, the city contracts with them to provide regional homelessness services and has been an excellent partner, especially since CVAG's begun operating the regional contract internally. And while the city contracts with numerous programs to serve clients, the city also provides services to respond to the impacts caused by homelessness. And so, for example, the police department, especially our business district team and our crime prevention division, play multiple roles in working with our contracted partners to mitigate homelessness while working with the community and responding to calls. The development services and public works department also played critical roles in responding to calls for services, such as removing shopping carts, abating encampments, and other activities in our community. And collectively, these stakeholders, they meet on a monthly basis and discuss current trends, specific clients, resources available, and just various items related to homelessness. So in regard to the bylaws for consideration, the purpose of the proposed task force includes reviewing the city's internal and external services and our coordinated efforts to address homelessness. The task force is also recommended to discuss business and community needs due to the impacts of homelessness. In regard to membership composition, the council subcommittee recommends a 7-member board that'll meet every other month, bi-monthly, including 2 council members appointed by the mayor, 2 members of the business community, 2 community members, and the chair of the housing commission. Just a few notes. One of the committee members must be one of the community members must be on the public safety committee. And finally, the business members may reside outside of Palm Desert, but their business must be located within our jurisdiction. And before I conclude the presentation, I just want to mention some of the next steps if the bylaws are approved this evening. The city staff anticipates working on identifying the appropriate day and time for future meetings and beginning the recruitment process for vacant positions. And as part of this item this evening, the recommendation also includes allowing the 2 appointed council members to the task force to recruit, screen, and recommend the proposed business and resident members, and then bring that recommendation back to the full council for consideration. And city staff and I are available for questions as well. Thank you.
Questions? Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Gary, thank you for that report, and thank you for the amazing work that you have done on behalf of our city. You made excellent progress, much appreciated. The term task force, does that somehow, and I know that we've had a task force of the professionals involved that has been meeting on a semi-regular basis, police, fire, county, our behavioral resource specialists, and so forth, and staff, and so forth. Is this intended to be that, or is this a new committee? I guess I'm a little confused by the term task force. Can you clarify?
Honorable Mayor and Councilmember Jonathan, the term task force is just a different term for committee or commission or advisory board in this term.
Okay, and I don't know, well, maybe we need to decide it, but I'll have some thoughts on how to proceed. It could be that for structural or legal purposes, we want to actually define this as a committee, but we can circle back to that. It occurs to me that this new task force or committee may have some valuable input into what the bylaws should be. Do you see any downside to either postponing this or making this just proposed bylaws, and once the group is together, let them provide input to the council before giving final approval? Is there any problem in doing that?
I could defer to the subcommittee on that question. I would say that there probably is no particular issue. One comment would be that if the bylaws are approved, I know this subcommittee, Committee and Commission subcommittee is going to take an in-depth look at all the bylaws once we get through the appointment process and try to add some consistency amongst all the bylaws as well.
No, I'm talking about the homelessness task force itself.
Sure.
Kind of essentially defining its own function and mission and how it can best serve the city. I wonder if we can move forward with forming this task force or committee without necessarily adopting final bylaws at this juncture. Is that possible?
let me jump in here since the subcommittee was invited. I think that's a great idea. I don't see a problem with that. Perhaps it probably is important for the council tonight to authorize the second part of this, to authorize the 2 appointed council members to recruit and screen and recommend to the full council who the business and community members will be. The subcommittee proposed that since, as we all know, we'll be concluding our committee appointments tomorrow morning. And so delegating to the 2 appointed council members to do some recruitment and screening would seem to be a good way of pressing that along. But as a subcommittee member, it strikes me that receiving these as draft bylaws to be reviewed and commented upon makes a whole lot of sense. The word task force made sense to me to recognize that this is really pulling together representatives from a variety of existing committees and other sources. And an open question, quite frankly, Councilmember Jonathan, is how its work might be coordinated with the existing staff task force, because the contemplation is that that same group of people would be present at these meetings too for communication back and forth. So Mayor Pro Tem Harnick is the other member of the subcommittee.
Well, there's not much you said that, or much that I could say that you said it very well. I don't see, personally, I don't see really an addition, much of an issue to go ahead and adopt the bylaws, because all they have to do is their first meeting. Let's have some guidelines and then they can sit down. It doesn't take that much to suggest a bylaw change and for it to come in front of council. I think they're pretty comprehensive bylaws, and if we adopt them and as the group comes together and they see some perhaps additions without, it's a little difficult without understanding the structure of committees and commissions within the city. So I don't see it as being really a problem to adopt the bylaws. And then if there are some things that our group look as needed, glaringly in need of change, then we can change them. But I think the sooner we get this going, certainly the better.
Let's see if there are any other questions before we launch fully into discussion. Councilmember Nestande, was that question or discussion?
I'm more discussion.
Same for you, Councilmember Quintanilla. Are we ready, set, discuss? Oh, wait. Councilmember
Didn't realize I was muted. My question is, just to clarify, on the presentation, it said that one of the members would be from the Public Safety Committee, and then the bylaws say that it would be the chair of the Housing Committee. So are these two included, or did that get swapped?
No, it's both. It's the chair of the Housing Commission, plus, if I'm recalling correctly, plus 2 committee members, one of whom would be from public safety.
I'm sorry, my eyes are adjusting, I guess, to endorse it. It's right there, a sentence below where I didn't see it. So thank you.
Sure.
I can just comment on that, Mayor. This is one reason that I wanted to just move this along as draft, because I don't see that council, and if it's the wish of my colleagues, we can get into the bylaws themselves, but I would want some discussion about some of the provisions in the bylaws. I think they can be tweaked a little bit. I think it's easier to just pass this forward as draft, let that committee be formed or task force be formed, let them define their own function, and allow them the opportunity to have the bylaws reflect their wishes. So, but if it's the preference of the council, we can certainly start going into the bylaws themselves, and I can go down my concerns and others can do the same.
Well, my suggestion would be, I think we all share the desire to move this along. And it sounds like the best way to move it along and get things going would be to adopt this as a draft to be reviewed by those initially appointed to bring back final proposals to the council. That's my sense of things. You know, the core mission here is coordination and communication. So as long as what they bring back to us achieves coordination and communication, I'll be happy. Other thoughts, Councilmember Nastandi, you had thoughts?
Yes, as we all know, we have a CVAG committee on homelessness, which is doing great and wonderful things in the community, because really homelessness is it's a regional issue, a state issue. It's beyond the borders of Palm Desert, but I'm glad, you know, we're forming something here just for our city as well. It's my hope that there will be coordination with the CVAG Homeless Committee, and should there be a representative on the committee?
One of the council appointees will be our council representative to the CVAG Homelessness Committee to achieve that connection. Your comments capture perfectly why this proposal is coming forward. Yes, CVAG is doing some good work. When I attend our housing commission, people there have questions about who's doing what. I assume at the Public Safety Commission, people have questions about who's doing what. So by bringing representatives from these various groups together, they'll form a common core of knowledge to take back to each of those bodies. And quite frankly, we should be able to achieve more substantively as more people throughout the city understand who's doing what and understand where they can give feedback if something's not working. So thank you. That's exactly what this is all about.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Councilmember Quintanilla had her hand up first.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I just wanted to add a little extra in the scope of trying to refocus. If there would be consideration for having a healthcare professional or a mental health care professional as a requirement, as we know a lot of these underlying issues can be a barrier in order to achieve success. So I would advocate for having a healthcare or mental health care professional on there.
And that is certainly, if we leave this in draft form, it would facilitate that sort of refinement. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Thank you. And I had in my council comments, so I'll just skip ahead right now. But 2 Fridays ago, I went out with our sheriff on a ride along to go to the homelessness encampments and to have a better understanding of our homelessness situation. And we stayed within Palm Desert, and to Councilmember Nastandi, we know that this goes far beyond, this is a regional effort, but we stayed because these were our sheriff. We stayed within the boundaries of Palm Desert. And without a doubt, it's a drug issue. It's a mental health issue. So when Councilmember Quintanilla makes that point, it's a good point. And I do want to extend the offer they presented to me that all council members are welcome to go on a ride along. They would appreciate showing you what they see and what has become their job, which I know was never intended. That was not a sheriff's or police person's job, and now it is. But it's important that we go out and see what they deal with so we have a greater understanding of how we address it, and who needs to address it, and how we can go about it. And I will say that it is nothing less than heartbreaking when you go out there. So anything we can do to understand it and help with this, we should do.
All right, let's have a motion. Councilmember Jonathan.
you, Mayor. And I'll make the motion. I just want to preface it by saying I'm just so happy and proud of our city that we're moving forward with this. I think there are several significant advantages that will benefit the city and our residents. Number one, it'll enable the public to have input and to shape our response to homelessness. Number two, it'll help us coordinate. There are so many moving parts between our own behavioral specialists that we have hired through the county, our police force, our fire department, our Parks and Rec, the COPS program. Those are just the people within Palm Desert who coordinate with the Valley-wide CDAG program. So to have all those partners in one room working together will be huge. So I'm very pleased to see that. I will move for approval of the draft bylaws, subject to finalization by the task force itself, and as well as the rest of staff's recommendation.
So just to be clear, the rest of staff's recommendation means recommendation number 2.
Yes.
So that the appointed council members will be able to recruit, screen, and recommend committee members. And you said to be finalized by the task force. Does that mean to bring back to council?
Oh, yes, I apologize. To gain the task force's input and recommendation to council for final approval.
Right. Is there a second? Thank you.
I'll second.
Any further discussion before we vote? Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0 as amended.
Item 22 is request for direction for a future request for proposals for design work related to Lupine Plaza. And Mr. Saya is ready to go.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Eric Seha, serving as your Interim Director for Development Services. Tonight, we're asking the City Council to confirm the contents of a future request for proposal for Lupine Plaza. To let you know on Lupine Plaza, some of the immediate things that we have done based on Council's direction in early May is that we've extended the contract with the Bright Company, which is providing the furnishings that are out on Lupine Plaza today. And we're also working with them on updated furniture and finishes for next season. Long-term, what we're looking to do is release the request for proposal for design services to make Lupine Plaza a permanent improvement along El Paseo. As part of that request for proposal, we're designing a scope of services that would ask proposers to define the limits and their method for roadway closure at El Paseo and then north of the plaza itself, to provide that the plaza design be at the same height as the surrounding curbs so that it's flush with the existing sidewalks on either side of Lupine Lane, that they propose a cooling method that can be inclusive of shade structures, mist systems, or any other creative methods that they may come up with. Also, that their design be supportive of events in that space, that they develop a landscape plan that's compatible with El Paseo for the plaza. They look at lighting solutions. They provide us a selection of furnishings, and that they work with our teams at the city here on the additional items, including artists, and use their own design expertise to come up with any other creative solutions for Lupine Plaza. As part of that request, staff is also asking that the City Council establish an ad hoc subcommittee to help us with public outreach. You can see the number of members that are listed that staff is recommending. We wanted to make sure that this was an inclusive process, that we would include commissioners from a number of city commissions, including Art and Public Places, Parks and Rec, Architectural Review, as well as members from the El Paseo Merchants Association and the adjacent property owners to Lupine Plaza. In terms of scheduling, staff believes with council's direction tonight that we could be ready to release the RFP later this month. That would allow applicants the month of July to prepare their responses, allow staff to review those, and then come back to City Council in late August with an award of contract. Working with that design firm, we think it's about a 4 to 6 month process to finalize design, do public outreach, and to gain a consensus on what the plaza could look like in the future. And then we would come back to the city council next spring with a recommendation to move forward with permanent improvements. That completes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Seah? Stay right there just in case questions emerge as we discuss. Thank you for this work. Input from council? Does this need to be massaged or does it do the job? Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
I wanted to thank the team for doing this so quickly and coming up with a path to get where we all want to go. So thank you. This is exciting.
Do you all see worth in possibly having 2 council members on the subcommittee?
I would be open to having 2, and I don't know if I would be fortunate enough to be chosen as one of the 2, but that's throwing it out.
Okay, I think experience has taught us that having some breadth of perspective is helpful.
I think Gina and Jen would make a great addition to that committee, but that's just my take.
Let's is that acceptable to everyone?
I think I'm not sure, but I think I might have seen Mr. Seah cringe just then.
My suggestion.
Yeah. I, for one, think that the list of tasks to be included in the RFP is quite appropriate and comprehensive. And if Mayor Pro Tem Harnick and Councilmember Nestante are on the subcommittee, I'm sure we'll bring back some excellent results. So, you need it, Madam Clerk, do we need a motion making that our advice?
Yes, a motion, please.
Okay, so would someone like to move to confirm the contents proposed for the future RFP and to establish the proposed subcommittee with both Mayor Pro Tem Harnick and Councilmember Nestante as members?
So moved.
Is there a second? Yes. Councilmember Jonathan's nodding. Is that a second?
Sure, second.
Please take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilmember Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nestande,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0 as directed.
Savvy, just be glad this is not an auction. You might have bought the painting.
Been there, done that.
And item 23, Ms. Tapia is back for the next chapter in our exciting mini-series. Resolutions number 2021-29-23 and -31. A resolution declaring intention to issue refunding bonds for the Section 29 Assessment District number 2004-02. And B, a resolution approving the reassessment report in connection with the Section 29 Assessment District refunding bonds. And C, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of Section 29 Assessment District Limited Obligation Refunding Improvement Bonds, Series 2021, authorizing certain documents and approving certain other related matters. Ms. Tapia.
Good evening. I guess this would be book 2 of the anthology that we're going through. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, Veronica Tapia, your Senior Management Analyst for the Finance Department. There are 3 resolutions before you tonight, along with the documents necessary to refund the Section 29 Assessment District bonds. The district is located entirely within the city in the northwest corner of Portola Avenue and Gerald Ford Drive, and was created to finance the public improvements necessary to develop the area. As we've spoken before, the city's debt policy states that an NPV savings of 3% or greater is considered significant. The underwriting team has recently indicated that by refunding, the district has the potential to realize about 11.04% in NPV savings, or $4.2 million over the life of the bonds. This equates to about $263,000 in annual debt service savings that would go directly to the property owners. The approval of the reassessment report provides the framework for distribution of that savings, along with other things, to the various owners. The actual savings will be subject to market conditions at the time of the pricing. By approving the resolution of issuance, the City Council will be approving the preliminary official statement, which is also known as the POS, and it's our offering document and other financing documents. Each of their purposes are summarized in the staff report before you. Approval of the 3 resolutions tonight will meet the requirements of the debt policy and continue the process to refund these bonds. Following a marketing period in early June, the bonds are expected to be sold in late June and then issued in mid-July. There's a good faith estimate that has been provided by our Muni advisor in the fiscal analysis of the report. The savings generated, again, by the refunding will benefit the property owners within the district. There's no direct impact to the general fund. Staff and members of the financing team are available if you have any specific questions on this issue.
Are there questions? Is there a motion to move all 3 of staff's recommendations?
Motion to move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second the motion to move all 3 staff's recommendations.
Very good. And Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Good work. Thank you so much. Item 24 comes to us from the Legislative Affairs Committee. It is a request for consideration of a legislative position regarding state funding for the Salton Sea restoration. Mr. Gary.
Good afternoon again, Honorable Mayor and Council members. The item before you is the consideration of a proposed letter of support to include funding in the state budget for Salton Sea restoration activities. To explain, the governor's May revision of the state budget included $220 million for these restoration activities. And according to the California Natural Resources Agency, new funding would bolster the state's efforts to implement the Salton Sea Management's program's 10-year plan, which calls for the construction of 30,000 acres of habitat habitat and dust suppression projects on exposed lake beds, I think within the next 10 years, I think by 2028, or I'm fairly sure. Specifically, the agency also mentions that new funds could enable another 4,000 acres of deep water habitat, 1,000 acres of shallow water habitat, and 3,000 acres of dust suppression projects. And while this funding was included in the governor's revised budget, it did not appear to be included in some of the earlier versions of the legislature's draft priorities circulating through Sacramento. And the Legislative Review Committee discussed this item earlier this week and subsequently recommended submission of a letter of support to include funding in the state budget. And finally, after speaking with our city lobbyists within the last few hours, the latest information they believe is that funding could be or is included in the agreed upon budget between the state and assembly. Now that's who's to say when the budget is printed tomorrow if that information is still there, but they believe at this moment some funding may be available in there. So again, the budget is the state budget will be printed tomorrow. That has the Assembly and the Senate's agreed upon budget, and I believe they'll be voting on this early next week, probably Monday, in order to meet their June 15th deadline. And city and staff and I would be available for any questions.
Questions? Councilmember Jonathan?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question. I don't know if you want to wait till discussion of the legislative subcommittee, really, and maybe Mr. Gary wants to weigh in. Should I wait until discussion or just throw it out there?
Are there any other questions? If there are no other questions, then this can be the bridge. So if it leads into discussion, that's great. Go for it.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So I think, like most people, we understand the dangers of the Salton Sea, and we want a solution not only on the books, but actually implemented. And of course, we've all been waiting decades after I don't know how many millions of dollars. My question to the subcommittee, and perhaps Mr. Gary, is, are we just perpetuating government efficiency by recommending another $250 million be thrown at this thing, or does this have some opportunity of actually making a difference?
This particular work is some of the least expensive, most practical work that anyone has proposed in connection with the Salton Sea, and there was a firm commitment to undertake it. And it concerns the simple step of creating some shallow habitat that covers areas that are being exposed to diminished dust. So it's a twofer in that it covers exposed area and also provides some habitat. This had been an approved project, as the staff report indicates. There was a commitment to move forward with it, and yet it was surprisingly left out of the legislature's version of the budget. So that's why it seemed worth bringing to the council, because of the prior commitment, because it's one of the least expensive initiatives that has been proposed in connection with the Salton Sea, and because of the impact on our residents as well as other residents of the Coachella Valley. So that's why it was brought here. Yes, Councilmember Nistante.
And I think this would be a good time to bring this up. And I attended the Energy and Environmental Resource Committee today, and we had a wonderful presentation from the Salton Sea Authority and Mr. O'Dowd, who's taken over since this past November. And I'll share the power presentation with Todd, and he can distribute it to all of you. But it looks like the county is getting very close to doing a pilot program of a North Shore perimeter lake of the, or I shouldn't say lake, of the, and it would be in the North Shore area. And it's about a $20 million project, but they have the funding for it. It's still in the planning stages, but it looks like it could be moving forward within the year. And then also the University of Santa Cruz has been awarded from Sacramento to study the importation of water as well. There's another group out there that wants to look at importing water from the Sea of Cortez. The budget on that, though, to actually make that come to fruition, if it is a viable solution, is in the billions of dollars. So,
understood. And the goal of this proposal is not to weigh in regard to competing proposals. It's just to ask the state to follow through with something it already approved and committed to. That's what distinguishes this. The state did approve a 10-year plan, did commit to fund this. And so we're simply asking them to carry through with something they've already committed to, which is entirely compatible with the other sorts of plans that Councilmember Escalante mentioned, if any of them should go forward.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor.
So, is there a motion?
I just had a quick comment I don't think that we have any more time to waste because of how long it has happened. And the longer that we wait, the closer we are to becoming an Owens Lake. And then we can't measure what it will cost in billions. We're going to be measuring what it will cost in jobs, what it will cost in businesses lost, and what it will cost in lives. So just a little ray of sunshine to add to the mix about why this is a critical project to support.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
So as most of you know, this is something I feel very strongly about. And like the governor said, if we don't do anything, it'll be the worst environmental disaster we've ever known. And the governor was Ronald Reagan, and we've done nothing. And we cannot sit back and continue doing nothing. The health impacts over there are terrible. The people are suffering. Our youth are sick. It's awful. We've got to do something. I personally feel what we're doing is a Band-Aid, but at this point, a Band-Aid is better than nothing, and we must do something. And as Councilmember Quintanilla said, we lose jobs, we impact health. This will not be a place tourists want to come. And it is not a place that people will want to live. So we have to do something. So whatever we can do, we've got to get a move on.
I heard a motion.
Why, yes, you did.
Nice second.
Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nestandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
And this evening, we do have an information item of great interest pertaining to our 2021 Independence Day celebration.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Kelly and members of the City Council. My name is Vanessa Mager, and I am Management Analyst in the Economic Development Department. Before you is an informational update for receive and file regarding the 2021 Independence Day celebration. At the April 8th, 2021 council meeting, council approved the fireworks display for the July 4th. And at this time, it was noted that any additional features would be on hold as we were waiting further guidance on large gatherings by the state and the county. Since April 8th, much has changed in guidance being given by the state and the California Department of Public Health as we move closer to the state of California on June 15th reopening. Based on the new guidance, a scaled down version of the city's traditional Independence Day celebration is being planned, as outlined in the staff report. Please note that while we await the California Department of Public Health mask guidance for after June 15th, the county does anticipate that this will be updated to be in alignment with the CDC guidelines. Staff will be sure to provide the current mask guidance to residents and visitors prior to the event, as well as added signage throughout the park on the day. Mask hand washing stations and hand sanitizing stations will be available in Civic Center Park for attendees' safety. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have Ms. Mager, thank you very much for your report. Appreciate it. And thank you for the good news. I just have one question. You say staff is planning a scaled down version of the city's traditional Independence Day, and I don't have my arms around that. What can you elaborate on how you mean by scaled down?
So this year, we will not be having a live band. We will have music being played that will pipe throughout the park. So it'll just kind of be background music as opposed to creating a gathering in front of the amphitheater. We also will have a limited amount of vendors so that we can place them strategically and separate them so that we can still create some social distancing, even though social distancing will be removed by then. But we do want to make sure that anybody that attends feels comfortable if they so choose to come to the park.
Thank you. The fireworks display itself, is it expected to be similar on par to the fireworks displays of the past?
Yes, sir. So it'll still be a 20-minute firework display. It will still be simulcast, so people can view the fireworks and still listen to the patriotic music within a perimeter of the city, which, you know, we know about 5-mile radius that you can see our fireworks display. And then you will also be able to hear it here at the park with the speakers that we will have.
So the key is the fireworks are not scaled down.
No, those are the same.
Scaled down means no program on the amphitheater, which would cause people to collect in a compact space. So the fireworks will be bigger and better than ever, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, may we have a motion to receive and file?
Make a motion to receive and file.
Did you have another question, Sabby?
But just a comment, and then I'll second that motion. I think that special events in general are a way for bringing our residents together as a community. And when they come together to celebrate our amazing country and the occasion of its independence, makes it even that much more special. And I couldn't be happier that we're doing this. The first time that fireworks were used to celebrate 4th of July was 1776. And so this is almost a 250-year tradition that we're carrying on. And I'm happy and proud to second that motion.
Let's take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nestandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly,
Yes.
receive and file 5-0.
Thank you. Moving to public hearings. Number 26 is resolution number 2021-32, a resolution approving solid waste rates for Burtech Waste and Recycling Services, LLC, Burtech, under contract number C 27411, and requesting the County of Riverside to collect the associated charges for individually billed residences on the tax assessor's property tax roll for fiscal year 2021-22. Ms. Horning.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Heather Horning, your Environmental Services Manager. Before you is a staff report requesting approval of the annual charges for waste and recycling services for the city's waste hauler, Burtech Waste and Recycling, and approval to place these charges on the property tax roll for single-family residents. I'd like to make a clarification that the rates for fiscal year 21-22 are proposed to remain the same as last fiscal year. So the rate charts attached as an exhibit to the staff report show the rates being effective as July 1st, 2020, and those will remain in effect in fiscal year 21-22. In order to continue the process of tax roll billing for single-family residences for these charges, the city is required to hold a public hearing each year in advance of this placement on the tax roll. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So you're telling us there is no proposed rate increase, correct?
That is correct for this year. The annual increases are based on the producer price index and disposal increases. And this year, the producer's price index did not indicate that there was an annual increase due.
I am sure this will be on the front page of the newspaper tomorrow. No rate increase. Are there any other questions? If not, then I will open the public hearing with a soft lowering of my fist, still bruised from last month. The public hearing is open. Is anyone here to complain about the lack of a proposed rate increase? I don't see any raised hands, so I will close the public hearing. And do we have a motion to adopt the recommended actions?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Oh, I'll
And a
defer.
third. Please
I'll
take
be
the vote. Please take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nestandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
Our last action item is number 27, consideration to approve a general plan amendment to establish a lower residential density tentative tract map 37993 and a precise plan, case number GPA/TTM/PP 21-0001 for the subdivision of 23.4 vacant acres into 63 single-family residential detached lots located at the intersection of Julie Drive and Shepherd Lane, and adoption of an addendum to the Palm Desert General Plan and Environmental Impact Report, schedule number 201-508-1020, in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act. GHA Montage PD LLC applicant. Is it Mr. Schwartz?
Yes. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, Kevin Swartz, Associate Planner with the Development Services Meeting. The property is located in the north end of the city. You have Gerald Ford, Portola, Frank Sinatra. This is Shepherd Lane with the existing homes. The 23 acres is right in between Shepherd Lane, right in this area here. On the right here, this kind of just shows highlighted in red, the 23 acres. So obviously the property is a vacant, undeveloped. The project includes a general plan amendment. Currently it's town center neighborhood, which allows for a minimum of 7 units all the way to 40 units per acre. In order to the applicant is proposing 63 homes, which is about 3 units per acre. So they're proposing a general plan amendment to conventional suburban neighborhood, which is 3 to 8 dwelling units per acre. That is also the same designation as the existing neighborhood along Shepherd Lane. So it is consistent with the neighborhood. The applicant is proposing 2 types of homes. There's a model LX and a model Q. The lot sizes throughout range between 7,200 and 9,700 square feet, which is consistent with the homes along Shepherd Lane. And there's a map associated with the project to subdivide into 63 units, the open space and public streets. So this is a site plan here. You can see off to the side here, you have Portola Avenue. Access to it is Julie Drive. Currently, Julie Drive is built to here. The applicant is going to install a median along Julie Lane and carry it over to where this cul-de-sac is. When the remainder of the 128 acres is developed, this street will push through. But for right now, it will be a cul-de-sac. So you do see some shade trees. There's one access into the development, which is off of Julie Lane, which gets you around to the street networks, and you can see the layout of the 63 homes. There is no connectivity to the north. Shepherd Lane is here to the north to the existing, and then it's here. Shepherd Lane is what a lot of the residents refer to as kind of a drag strip. A lot of the neighbors complain that that's very fast. So city staff is actually very supportive that this does not connect and that it is kind of a buffer in between. These residents to the north are also very pleased it didn't connect for added traffic. You can see in the site plan, there's a couple open space amenity areas, which also act as retention basins. There's one here, here, and here. The reason they're in this area is this is the low end of the project where the water will drain. This is a perimeter wall highlighted in the block in red. In the solid red is the existing 6-foot-high wall. I just kind of wanted to show you, it goes around here. In blue, the applicant is just going to continue the wall around Portola, Julie Drive, up on Street A, and then around Julie Drive and the perimeter. So this wall will be consistent with what you see out there. It will have columns every right here in the green. So going into the units, the LX is the largest one. This is the largest home, about 2,600 square feet, 3-car garage. There is an option for a 4th bedroom to remove one of the 3-car garages. There are 3 models for each, Spanish, Mediterranean, and modern throughout. This is also, sorry, this is the largest LX one at 2,900 square feet. Same thing, Spanish, Mediterranean, and modern. And then we go into the Q. The Q is the smaller ones. This starts at 2,200 square feet, 2-car garage, same architectural styles, Spanish, Mediterranean, modern. And then this is the larger one on the Q, 2,400 square feet. Same Spanish, Mediterranean, modern. This is the color scheme throughout, very typical desert colors. They are adding some other colors as trim for some interest. I do want to put this up here. This is the main portion of the project, the general plan amendment. This column right in here shows you what it is today, town center neighborhood. It allows for single family, some multifamily. You can potentially go up to 3 stories. And again, the density is 7 to 40 units. So potentially this 23 acres could accommodate 920 units. Going over to the right, this is the proposed conventional suburban neighborhood, which is single family, 3 to 8 unit dwelling units per acre. The applicant is right at the 3, and this is consistent with the neighborhood. And potentially you could have 184 dwelling units, but the applicant is right at 63. Just wanted to show you here again, all of the existing homes that my cursor's on here, all the way down Shepherd Lane, down to Frank Sinatra. This is all designated suburban neighborhood within the general plan. So just filling this gap in here would be consistent. And then the remainder of the vacant land is all town center neighborhood. So in closing, staff recommends the general plan amendment to conventional suburban neighborhood to pass it to second reading, approval of the map to subdivide it into the 63 homes. From a land use compatibility standpoint, it's compatible. We did receive neighbor support. The neighbors were happy that it wasn't a dense project, that it's similar to their existing homes. They believe that it's in keeping with the neighborhood and property values. The Planning Commission also recommended approval. The Architectural Review Commission recommended approval of the design and landscape, and it complies with CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act. Are there any questions of staff?
I don't see questions, so I will proceed to open the public hearing. Is anyone present who wishes to be heard in connection with the public hearing?
Yes, Madam Mayor, this is Mario Gonzalez, if I may.
Sure.
Well, good evening, Council and Madam Mayor. Thank you for your time and thank you for continuing to keep the city open and conduct business. We're very grateful. My name is Mario Gonzalez on behalf of GHA Montage PD LLC, 30875 Date Palm Drive, Cathedral City, California. I just would like to thank Martin Alvarez. He helped this process. We started back in early 2020, and he had some real hurdles to get us where we're at, through the Oversight Committee, City Council, and also like to thank Eric Ceja for his time, and certainly Kevin Schwartz for putting together a very nice and proper report. Thank you, Kevin. Also, to try to address any questions, I do have, I hope, some of our team on board. We got Nicole Chris, our planner from Terra Nova. I think we have Danny Asher from Woodley Architecture for architectural questions. And I think we see Chris Berg from MDS to address any type of civil engineering questions. And I don't see our landscape architect, but maybe I can help out. I will say that our landscape architect spent many hours with Mr. Gregory. He was very active and engaged with us on the proper planting and so forth. So we were able to spend some time with him and make sure we addressed his concerns regarding landscape. I am also the same developer of the Genesis project, and happy to report that, about 3.5 years, some of the same council members supported that project, and we're now complete with that project. We installed the Dinosaur Drive, and 166 units will be completed in about 60 days or so. And along Shepherd Drive, GHA Communities was responsible for developing about 9 cul-de-sacs. So we have a lot of history in this area. We really believe we have a lot of good data of the type of units that would be proper in that location, hence the Montage project. We were awarded an E&A, exclusive negotiation agreement, back on August 12th of 2020. And as Kevin mentioned, ARC on the 23rd of March successfully. And then again, on May 4th, we addressed the Planning Commission. And I think the biggest discussion were plants. And then, as I said, we got that all worked out with Mr. Gregory. On Montage is certainly an infill project. As Kevin, I don't know if you could put maybe that aerial.
No, you might want to hold your powder to see if there are any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions thus far?
Because, yes, Councilmember Nestante.
Yeah. Hi, Mario. And yes, you do build a very good home. And I like what I've seen so far. It looks great. And my question is, if everything goes according to plan, when do you see any issues with, like, for example, lumber prices are getting people to actually build the homes? Are there any hurdles that you see?
Yes, thank you, Councilwoman Standy. That's a great question. And you know, certainly in the environment that we're in today because of COVID and a lot of things that go along with that, we are experiencing labor issues. We are experiencing production uses with issues with appliances and so forth. But we've been down here in the desert since 1979. I think I did my first project back in the 80s with Mr. Diaz. And so we've over the years been able to gain and earn you know, business with a lot of different vendors. And although we are challenged, we have a pretty good labor pool, and we can't let that stop us. So we outsource in different areas, but that is certainly a concern for many builders, large and small.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no one else to speak, I will close the public hearing and hear from council. Councilmember Jonathan.
Oh, already unmuted. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I didn't ask questions because I did meet with the applicant and staff and had a bunch of questions, got them answered to my satisfaction. I do believe that the proposed development is compatible with surrounding neighborhood and with the vision that we have for that part of Palm Desert. I think we have a credible and reliable development partner in Mr. Gonzalez, and I would move approval.
Is there a second?
I would second the motion.
Let's take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nestandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0.
we appreciate the project. Go build it.
Thank you, Mayor. You do a great job. You're a real pro. It's very enjoyable. Thank you. Thank you, folks. Have a great evening. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you, Mario.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Which brings us to council member reports or requests for action. And in my rotational system, Councilmember Jonathan is up first.
I don't know what that system is, but I always get caught by surprise.
You know what? I'll send it out. Everybody,
That's okay.
everybody stays in the same order. Now you will go from first to last next time.
Don't send it out. I like the unpredictability. So much fun. You know, I don't have any substantive issues to report to council or to the public. I've attended the meetings. I do have one thing I want to bring up to staff's attention. I don't know that there's a request for action there, but in today's mail, I got a disturbing letter from the city of Palm Desert. The subject says non-compliance notice, mandatory commercial organics recycling. And as a commercial property owner, that's the first I heard of it. Now, I was aware that this issue is coming up because of my position on council, but most of the public isn't. And frankly, the letter is scary. I mean, nobody wants to be non-compliant. So I just want to alert staff that there may be some concern, and you may be hearing from some folks. And if there's a way to assuage the concerns of our commercial property owners and let them know that you know, this is not, we gotcha and we're going to get you worse if you don't do something, but instead that we're there as a support mechanism to educate and help them come into compliance, I think that would be a good thing for our city to do.
Thank you for that feedback.
Thank you.
It's good to have a secret shopper out there.
I know.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Thank you. Well, I already talked about the ride along, and I do recommend everyone go on a ride along. It'll be eye-opening, and it'll help us in what we're trying to achieve here. I do want to mention I went to Corky Larson's Celebration of Life, and I had the good fortune to be friends with her, and it was a very inspirational celebration. When you have 47 grandchildren and great-grandchildren, they've got some stories, I'll tell you what. And I was on, where I continue working, and as Councilmember Jonathan said, we go to all our meetings, and we do go to a lot. I went to my usual meeting that is a Southern California-wide meeting for digital divide and addressing that issue, and we're making progress, so that's great news. Also, Riverside County Transportation Commission, it looks like there will be a lot more funds coming out of this infrastructure bill through some of our representatives, and that's good news for everybody. My request is, I would like, if, you know, we have those 2 social workers out there doing work, and I think that's great. The sheriff called them Team Hope. I think it would be nice if we could get a report, you know, maybe at every meeting, or maybe it's once a month, whatever we decide it should be. But it would be nice to know what they're doing, what activities, what their success, and, you know, how they're addressing these issues. So I think all of us would be better off if we were informed. So those are, and last meeting we said nothing about Memorial Day. So we all miss that, and we all have so much to be thankful for, that we can have these meetings because of the men and women who have given so much. So that's it. That's what I've got.
Thank you. Perhaps that information you asked for could be included in the weekly reports. Maybe not every week, but periodically.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Councilmember Nastante.
Thank you, Mayor, and I don't have anything more to add than what I've already commented upon at our meeting. So thank you very much.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
I will summarize the substance of the Art and Public Places Commission meeting and the idea of how we define our community. That was a really wonderful meeting. A lot of discussion about inclusion, equity, diversity, and how we need to shape the vision and the landscape that makes not only our residents feel welcome, but our traveling visitors from across the state and across the globe. And so bringing pieces that are inclusive in that perspective. And that was a really powerful meeting. And one of the pieces that I really appreciated was that several of the commissioners talked about having more art that is inclusive of the Cahuilla people, and not just the petroglyphs that remind us of this once being their ancestral land, but who they are in the present and their contributions still to art. And so as we get closer and looking at the roundabout sculpture and those that were not selected for the first round, they would be invited to participate when we look at the second roundabout sculpture. So everything moving along, and you know, some conversations with residents and along the same lines of diversity, equity, inclusion. And that's been a lot of my time, and I appreciate the opportunity to keep working on that with residents. So thank you.
And thank you. I will share that at the most recent meeting of the Regional Council for Southern California Association of Governments, where both Mayor Pro Tem Harnick and I represent the Coachella Valley in some capacity. The committee I attend heard an expert presentation about the likely evolution of office work post-pandemic. And the bottom line takeaway is having researched the issue and gathered data from many employers that they are not expecting any substantial diminution in the use of office space, but rather reconfiguring of office space with an expectation of people having hybrid arrangements where some time is spent in distance work and some time is spent at the office, often in more collaborative settings. So that I'll share that takeaway. And if anyone wants to know more, just ask and I'll send the link with all of the data. Mr. Heilman, anything to share?
No report tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Then prior to adjourning, I will simply remind us all on the council that we see one another tomorrow morning at 9 to complete our work on committees and commissions. And with that, we are adjourned. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good night.
Adjourned 5:36 p.m.
Hasta mañana.